A seismic shockwave just hit the foundations of presidential power. A federal appeals court has ruled that key tariffs imposed by former President Donald Trump were an illegal overreach of his authority. This isn't just about trade. It's about the limits of power in a democracy. For years, the question lingered, how much power should one person have to reshape America's global relationships? Today, the judiciary has delivered a forceful answer. The ruling sets up a monumental Supreme Court showdown that could define presidential powers for generations. The decision challenges a core tenet of the Trump administration's America First agenda. Critics saw the tariffs as an unconstitutional power grab, arguing the president was acting like a king, imposing massive taxes without Congress. This court ruling validates their fight, bringing the nation to a constitutional crossroads. The Trump administration has vowed to appeal, pushing this legal battle to the Supreme Court. The outcome will determine the balance of power between the branches of government. Will the court rein in presidential authority or affirm the executive's broad power to act alone? The answer will shape the future of American democracy. So, what exactly are tariffs? They're taxes on imported goods designed to make foreign products more expensive and encouraged by American. President Trump made tariffs central to his economic strategy, targeting countries like China for what he called unfair trade practices using Cold War-era laws. The administration claimed national security justified sweeping tariffs on steel, aluminum, and more, but the economic shock was real. While some industries saw a boost, many small businesses suffered. Imagine running a company where the cost of imported materials doubles overnight. You either absorb the loss or pass it to customers. Thousands of entrepreneurs, from furniture makers to electronics assemblers, face this dilemma. They argued tariffs weren't a tax on China, but on them and ultimately on American consumers. The promised manufacturing renaissance never fully arrived. Instead, businesses navigated retaliatory tariffs, broken supply chains, and uncertainty. These weren't just numbers in a report. They were real people, collateral damage in a trade war they never asked for. The tariffs created winners and losers, but for many, the cost was simply too high. The debate over who pays and who benefits became a national flashpoint. The legal fight was about more than economics. It was about fairness and the rule of law. Facing an existential threat, a coalition of small businesses sued the federal government. On one side, the power of the presidency. On the other, determined business owners who believed the president had broken the law. Their argument was simple: only Congress can levy taxes, not the president acting alone. The lawsuit began in the U.S. Court of International Trade, challenging the constitutionality of the laws Trump used. They claimed Congress had handed over too much power and it was time for the courts to restore balance. Government lawyers countered that Congress intentionally gave the president broad discretion on trade and national security. Early court decisions deferred to the executive, but the business owners persisted, appealing. Each setback, their fight was about survival. Every shipment and invoice reminded them what was at stake. The case reached the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, where the constitutional stakes became clear. The judges had to decide when does regulating commerce cross into unconstitutional taxation. The small businesses had turned a trade dispute into a fundamental test of the separation of powers. Their long-shot lawsuit was now on the brink of making history. The nation watched as their challenge moved to the highest levels of the judiciary. Then came the bombshell ruling. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit struck down the broad use of tariffs under Section 232, saying it exceeded the authority Congress gave the president. The court ruled that while the president can act on national security, that power isn't a blank check. The judges said Congress can't hand over its core responsibilities like taxing and regulating commerce to the president without clear limits. The decision zeroed in on the separation of powers, warning that vague national security claims can't justify limitless executive action. If any economic issue can be called security threat, the president's power would be virtually unchecked. The court demanded an intelligible principle to guide presidential action and found it lacking. Here, this ruling challenges decades of expanding executive authority in trade. It's a warning to Congress. Reclaim your constitutional duties or risk losing them for good. The verdict isn't just about Trump's tariffs. It's a call for Congress to act. Trump and his allies responded with defiance, blasting the ruling as a political attack on his America First agenda. He vowed to appeal to the Supreme Court, confident his actions would be vindicated. Supporters argued the court was meddling in national security and foreign policy, where the president needs flexibility. Government lawyers quickly sought to stay, keeping tariffs in place during the appeal. They warned of chaos if tariffs were lifted, claiming it would hurt American industries. The legal battle is far from over, and the administration is framing the Supreme Court case as a fight between stability and judicial overreach. Trump's team is turning the case into a political rallying cry, energizing supporters and putting pressure on the judiciary. The battle lines are drawn in the courtroom and in public opinion. The stage is set for the Supreme Court. The justices must decide, can Congress delegate sweeping powers to the president, or are there limits? The central issue is the non-delegation doctrine. One branch can't give away its constitutional powers. The court could agree with the appeals court, curtailing presidential power and forcing Congress to be more specific, or it could uphold the status quo, affirming broad executive authority and trade. There's also a middle ground. The court might rule on the process, not the law itself, or interpret the statute more narrowly, with 3 Trump-appointed